Howdy guys, welcome to another episode of Mr. Allen Maths. Today we're going to be talking about adding decimals. I have three examples here. If you want, you can pause the video right now, try them out before we go over the explanation. Alright, so we're going to start going. Before I answer each one of these, I want to estimate my answer just to check on if the answer I get is reasonable. So we'll do an estimate first. So for 41 and 3/10 plus 7 and 528 thousandths. First, I'm going to round each number. So I'm going to say, well, 41 and 3/10. If I look at that 3, I know that rounds down to nothing. So I'm just going to say, okay, well, 41 plus, and then if I'm going to round to my ones place here, I'll look at the 5, and the 5 will round up to 8. So I just want to explain the type of estimating I'm doing is I'm going to call it front end estimating, which is when I look at the number all the way at the front, or the place value farthest to the left. So if you see I rounded to the tens place here and the ones place here, just to explain why I rounded it like I did. So my estimate will be 49. So my actual answer should be closer to 49. So when I add my decimal numbers together, I need to make sure I line up my place values, right? So 41 and 3/10 plus 7 and 528 thousandths. That 7 is in the ones place. So I'm going to put the 7 below the 1 in the ones place. And then the 5 in the tenths place below the 3 in the tenths place. And then the 2 and the 8. Just to clarify, a lot of people will say, oh, line up the decimal point. That doesn't always work because if you look in example number 2 over here, right, there's no decimal point in that number. 62. So that's why we don't say line up the decimal point, because it could confuse people who maybe are just learning or are looking for a decimal point. Okay, so we'll add this together. I'm also going to recommend you put these zeros here, placeholder zeros, which make it an equivalent decimal number. So 0 plus 8 is 8, 0 plus 2 is 2, 3 plus 5 is 8. Make sure you put your decimal point in your answer. 1 plus 7 is 8. And 4 plus nothing is 4. And so this is my answer. Oh, I just erased that, my bad. There we go. So this would be my answer I get, and that is really close to 49. So I'm going to say my answer seems reasonable. And then it's kind of like a short way to kind of double check yourself. So let's look at number 2. I'm going to use front end estimation again. I'm going to say, okay, 62 is actually, I'm going to leave it at 62 since I know I'm rounding here to the ones place. Because that's the thing about estimating is unless otherwise specified, right, unless someone tells you something specific, you actually don't have to estimate a very specific way. An estimate is not going to be exact anyway. So I'm going to say, okay, let's just keep this at 62 since I'm going to round this to the ones place. I'm going to say I'll round this to 3, 62 plus 3, 65. Probably more accurate than if I had rounded 62 to 60, right? And done 60 plus 3 and gotten 63. I bet 65 is going to be more accurate. So let's add these up. Now I can't say line up the decimal points, right? But I can say line up the place values. And if 62, the 2 is in the ones place, and if in 3 and 29 hundredths, 3 is in the ones place, and I'm going to put the 3 there, my decimal point, and then my 29 hundredths. And I know then 62, I can make an equivalent number, right? 62 is the same as 62 and 0 hundredths, right? Then I can add it up, get 9, 2, decimal point 5, and then 6. You get 65 and 29 hundredths. And once again, that is looks reasonable to me. It looks like it makes sense. Now let's go to our last example here, number 3. We have 43 hundredths plus 25 and 5/10. So when you're estimating, you got to use a little bit of judgment, right? I'm going to say I don't want to round 43 hundredths down to 0, right? Because then I'd say, oh, 0 plus something. Well, that's not really going to help me out. If I'm using a little bit of common sense, I could do a couple things. I could say, well, maybe I just want to make it 1 because it's got to be something. Or I'm thinking if I look at the whole equation, I could make this 0.5 and I could just say, oh, 25.5. I could say it's going to be close to 26, right? An estimate is just something you can do in your head really quick to check the reasonableness of your exact answer. So I'm going to say I could do that really quick in my head. I bet my answer is close to 26. Let's check. 25 and 5/10. I'm going to line up my place values. So I'm going to say 4 in the 10th place goes below 5 in the 10th place. 3. And once again, I'm going to put a 0 here as a placeholder, mostly because it's a good habit to have for once you get to subtracting decimals. Okay, I'm going to add this. I'm going to say 3 plus 0 is 3, 5 plus 4 is 9, decimal point 5, and 2. 25 93 hundredths is definitely close to 26. Okay, so that was our video on adding decimals. Any questions, leave them below. If you find other helpful resources, also leave those below. All right, thanks for watching.